Welcome to our daily reflection for this Saturday, September 7th. And today in the Psalm we have, which is Psalm 145, the Lord promises to draw near to those who call upon him. Let's call upon the Lord in our prayer today. And of course, in the first reading, which is from Paul's letter to the Corinthians, we hear that the idea of boasting. And Paul reminds the Corinthians and all of us why we should be humble. He says, "What do you possess that you have not received?" Right? Now you can think, wait a minute, I earned my money and had a successful career, but you had gifting, talents, intelligence, education, all kinds of things that you received to be able to earn and achieve. And Paul's point is, and Paul is a brilliant person, right? He's naturally endowed with great intelligence, but yet he sees in himself that what he has comes from God's gifting, and that what we have in our life is all pure gift. And that word gift is very important for Paul, charis, which is the word for grace. So whenever you hear Paul talk about the grace of God, he's literally saying the gift of God. And he's saying that natural gifting we get is also parallel to the supernatural gifting of God's grace, God's supernatural life in our lives. And he says, look, if what we have, everything we have, been given as a gift, why do we boast when everything we have is received, given to us? And then he tells us then to ask that question. And so Paul's inviting us to do an inventory in our life today in our prayer. What do you have that you should be thankful for? Whether it's your intelligence, your career, your success, the relationships, all the blessings you have in life, realize that it's all gift. And so what that means is our life should be deeply marked by a life of gratitude. In other words, we could call it a Eucharistic spirituality, because the word Eucharist means thanksgiving in Greek. And so we, just as Jesus is Eucharistic to the Father, thankful to the Father, we need to be thankful to Jesus and to the Father for all that we have, because everything we have has been a gift. We've received it. And speaking of receiving great gifts, the gospel today speaks about the priesthood. Jesus and his disciples are walking through a grain field. The disciples, notice not Jesus, pluck the ears of grain because they're hungry, but it's the Sabbath, so they shouldn't be doing a work. The Pharisees accuse them to Jesus, and Jesus says to the Pharisees, have you never read the story about David? In other words, he's telling these great scholars of the law, have you never read the Bible? And what David did when he and those who were with him were hungry, and how they ate the bread of the presence, which is not lawful for them to eat on the Sabbath because they're not priests, but they're granted priestly prerogatives because they're supporting the Messiah, David. And Jesus is the new Messiah. And his disciples have priestly prerogatives. And so notice that Jesus is comparing his disciples to the priests of the Old Covenant, because they are going to be the priests of the New Covenant, serving the new anointed King, Jesus, the new anointed Messiah. And so we see how the story of David comes full circle into fruition with Jesus. But notice it's about the bread of offering in the temple. And now there's going to be a new bread that's going to come from a new priesthood. And that new bread is the Eucharist. Speaking of being thankful and Eucharistic in our spirituality, let's be Eucharistic. When we go to the Eucharist, we see Jesus offering himself to the Father in thanksgiving, and we are invited to offer ourselves. So today in our meditation, let's assess and do an inventory of all the blessings and gifts God's given us, and then respond with thanksgiving. Gifting, God gifts, he gives us charis, and we respond with eucharis, which means thanksgiving. And at the heart of Eucharist is gift, charis. So we want to receive God's gifts, his grace, with thanksgiving. That's what we're called to do today. May the Lord bless and keep you. Thanks to God's providence, I'm speaking to you from the Augustine Institute's new campus in St. Louis, Missouri. We have this wonderful 286-acre state-of-the-art campus, which is going to allow us to transform our mission from simply having digital platforms to now having a physical platform that complements those digital platforms. It allows us to provide in-person education and training in the faith. We think this is going to be transformative, increasing our student enrollment, providing and allowing us to have conferences and retreats for the church and for the Catholic laity and religious across North America. Help the Augustine Institute serve Christ and the church with this new campus. A gift of $100 or more will allow you to receive a gift in preparation for Advent called Waiting for Christ by St. John Henry Newman. We'll send that to you before Advent, and you can go to augustineinstitute.org/give and make a donation today.